Iron Lords podcast.
Welcome to the Lord's Minute, our quick hit video series where we break down all the biggest happenings in gaming and beyond. I'm your host, Ty Swenson, writer for Lords of Gaming, and with me today is Lord King. We're back once again talking about the book of Boba Fett, another two-parter as we discuss chapter 5 and chapter 6. To start things off, I'm going to kick it off to King and talking about chapter 5 and mainly Din the Mandalorian's banishment from the Enclave. What do you have to say about that, King?
It kind of blew me away. First of all, I didn't expect a whole episode about the Mandalorian, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I really think it took away from the book of Boba. You
Right.
know, we didn't get a whole episode of Boba Fett on the Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Disney caved into the cries to hear what's going on with the Mandalorian, what's going on with the Mandalorian,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they overdid it, to be honest with you. I mean, of course, I love the character, but you could have dropped a vignette or something about that separately and shown that he was recruited by Fennec Shan, to Boba's army, so to say, his
Mm-hmm.
growing army of bounty hunters. But again, what we did have and what we did have to work with, I thought it was stellar, to be honest with you. It showed that his inexperience in using the black saber. Um, it showed also him fighting against himself with it, and he's not one with it.
Right.
So it really shows that whoever's able to weld it and move with it like a lightsaber, which is completely different, right? So a lightsaber and a dark saber, it's really completely different in the properties and how it's used, because we've
Mm-hmm.
never heard anyone that's using a lightsaber as it gets heavier as you swing it and you're fighting against it. So um it's little things to it that we have to learn about to see why he was looking so amateurish in swinging this the saber. Um, but how his boy turned on him so quickly. He welcomed him in. Yeah, man. I thought I'd never see you again, and it's so great to see you.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a little pack of three, and it was going to build from there. And then it turned into, you don't have the right to that. My family lineage is that, and I'm going to fight you to the death. And I was like, serious, bro? Like, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
serious? This is what you're going to pull? And I just realized that the what's the name of the forger? What's her name?
We don't know yet. She has not been
Okay,
named.
so we're gonna say like Supreme Mandalorian forger.
Yeah, she's just referred to as the armorer right now.
Oh, okay, so the armorer. All right, she's completely wise. It's like she's like a former Jedi or something in how she goes about handling the Mandalorian, right?
Mm-hmm.
Giving him insight without giving him direction, giving him option without giving him a mission, and she explained, because yeah, the spear was out of place in his repertoire, and it's good that she did what she did and what he did, and smelted it down for what he wanted. We'll talk about that in a second, for what he wanted it to be for.
Mm-hmm.
Because when she said he's a Mandalorian foundling, they laid claim on Grogu.
Right.
So, and that's, and the way of the Jedi and the way of the Mandalorian is completely diametrically opposed to each other, because they are like wolves and they stay in packs, and the Jedi are single in nature, and they hunt like you say leopards or panthers, in the sense that they are not tied to any set pack. And they usually, Jedis usually, uh once they complete their training, they go out in the world to do their Jedi business, and they rarely ever link with other Jedis unless called to a mission or something like that. So it was weird to see his longing for his child, the kid that he worked so hard to be with. And it was just a really well taught, well written Mandalorian story,
Right.
from the sound to the action. Like when he had to go pick up his bounty, which I
Hmm.
found very crazy because he told those dudes, "Listen, I'm not here for you. I'm here for this dude. Y'all can have it the easy way or the hard way after he done burnt his leg off, but it's the same Mandalorian that we love, and I can't wait for the next season. It just whet my palate more for more of that story, and made sure that I didn't forget. He still has a story to be told in that space. So that episode
Yeah.
with him was really good.
Yeah, and you mentioned before, it's kind of odd that this episode and the one following it were both Mandalorian centered. I would have been fine with just that one being mostly Mandalorian, but then they did it again for a second time. So it's just
Yeah.
odd. We only have one episode left to wrap up everything with Boba Fett, and the fact that we spent 2 episodes away from him
Yep.
was kind of an odd choice. With the dark saber and the armor and Din, I think it's very telling and very clear there's a lot more to the armor that we don't know. She is definitely going to play a bigger role as things evolve in the Mandalorian storyline. And the fact that she has this mysterious, she knows so much, yet we know so little about her. And when she was trying to teach Din how to use the dark saber, and harken back to Star Wars Rebels when Kanan was teaching Sabine how to use it,
Right.
and that she could tell right off the bat the way that the energy was flowing that he was having inner conflict with himself. Meanwhile, Sabine, she was having inner conflict on whether she wanted to take up the saber to lead her people of Mandalore.
Right.
Um, so that was a very interesting a duality slash callback with that. And as things wrapped up and he was kicked out because the armor asked him straight up, "Yo, do you still follow
Mhm.
our creed? Did you reveal your face to anyone?" In which he did. He revealed it, one, because he was in a tight spot um, when they were on that heist and they had to dress up as
Mhm.
stormtroopers. And then again, when saying goodbye to Grogu, to let Grogu see him with his own face before they parted ways. So he got kicked out. He still had the little package that the armor smelted for Grogu with him. And a montage of him getting a new ship later, it leads things into the next episode.
Oh, that ship is
Um,
amazing.
which yeah, he gets a Naboo starfighter now instead of the Razor Crest, and it was just one big homage to Episode One, The Phantom Menace,
Yes.
going through Beggar's Canyon and all that jazz, and it was great. It was a great callback, and he even says wizard when he gets out of that, like Anakin did.
Yeah. Yo, I like when the what is it, the X fighters pull up next to him,
Hmm.
and then they asking him questions, and he's like, yeah, well, he said, hey, weren't you, because you sound like so and so,
Hmm.
weren't you? And he just takes off.
Jet Cell there.
And he said, yo, he didn't ramp up no nothing. It was, what the hell? Well, like, he said, yeah, are you gonna go back and do paperwork on this? And
Mhm.
I think that ship fits him better.
Yes.
The lone wolf, out here on his own. And they asked, because I was sentimental to part. Like he was like, yo, what's up with the droid part right there? She's like, I gutted that out because I know you don't like droids. So that's like a Grogu space.
Yep, he's already said he got a little Grogu cockpit back there.
Yeah.
So which is telling for in episode 6 really is theming with choices. A lot of
Yeah.
people got to make some choices in this episode. Um, when Fennec finds Din to be like, "Yo, Boba needs your help," he's like, "Sure, I just gotta take care of one thing first." And he goes off to meet up with Grogu. He lands on the planet. We see R2-D2 leading him to all these other droids, building presumably Luke's first Jedi Academy. Um, and before he meets Luke, he meets my girl Ahsoka first. And
Yeah.
Ahsoka's like, "Yeah, I know you're here for Luke, but you're here for Grogu, but like, listen." And it's interesting because of so much of Ahsoka's backstory of that she's all about choice.
Yeah.
And she asked in, like, "Hey, I know you're here for the kid, but like, is this something that's good for him or is it good for you?" Um, because we see the montage of Grogu training with Luke, um, recovering basically his memories of when he trained at
Oh,
Coruscant.
yeah, it was horrible.
And we see that the trauma of Order 66, he had been blocking that. And Luke even comments that, like, I'm really just helping him remember what he already knows.
Yeah. So when he when he's running with him and he says, "Yo, okay, so I want you to do a jump,"
Mm-hmm.
right? And he's like, he's like, that's it. That's all you got. No, no. Let me show you something. First, I have to address the Unreal Engine 5 use of Luke. Um, we're still in Uncanny Valley. There was moments where he would look off and the eyes weren't tracking exactly what they wanted him to track. And I'm saying to myself, when are they going to use the Winter Soldier character, as the young Luke?
Sebastian Stan.
Yeah, Sebastian Stan. When are they're going to actually use him? Use a real person. I guess this saves on money for paying and tying him into another part of their universe. But I'm like, you have him under contract. Why not use him? He's the closest visible looking person to a young Luke, and I think he's agile enough to pull off a lot of this stuff. But that's just my little rant on that. I think they're close, but not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
But then when he gave Grogu the training bot,
Mm-hmm.
which and we saw Grogu actually trying to eat more frogs as amphibian. He is naturally a cannibal. This dude is not to be trusted. This is what I see, and he has to learn to rein in his appetite and his
Mm-hmm.
desires. And I think Luke sees that as well. But going back to the training bot, and it was teaching him how to jump and stuff, and it took me to the first time I saw old Yoda
Mm-hmm.
take his cane out when he was fighting Dooku, and he was like, "Yeah, okay, he's gonna get busy." And he put his cane down and started flipping all over the place. And we like, what? Yoda had this in him the whole time? So his species is very agile, very quick, very fast, very precise. And Luke knows this. So Luke's like, you have this inside of you, and then we have to nurture this aspect of your nature. So he's getting him to tap back into his nature, stuff that he suppressed, from Order 66, and seeing everybody die. But what I like about Ahsoka, when she turned to Luke, and she said, "Yeah, you're just like your pops."
Mm-hmm.
Made you remember, like, yo, she knew your pops before he was Vader, dude.
Yeah, it's funny, and being such a big Ahsoka fan, I'm just giddy with excitement for what Dave Filoni has in store for the Ahsoka series because
Yeah.
that's his character, and the fact that Ahsoka is Luke's senior, but she's like, yeah, no, I didn't want to train him, and Den's like, well, cool with Luke training him, like, yeah, because that's his choice. I got
Yeah.
other stuff to do. Um, and the way that she approaches how she's talking to Din versus how she's approaches talking to Luke, and Luke's uncertainty about what he's doing, but Ahsoka's like, yo, just trust your instinct. Um, and that leads to all these parallels that happen with that training with Grogu, of Return the Jedi,
Yeah.
Empire Strikes Back, and uh, Yoda himself, like on the swamps of Dagobah when Luke was first training, even had the backpack moment of when
Yeah.
Yoda was there, and the fact that this jump was so synonymous with Yoda, especially during the prequels, that again no one was expecting it, but then when you see Yoda fight, he is
Yes.
jumping, leaping from side to side during the Clone Wars. He's just all over the place. No one fights like Yoda, and this
No,
is the
not at
first
all.
time since we see the potential of that being again. I say potential because this episode ends with a major choice now
Yeah,
of
but yeah. I would like to get to that, but
yeah.
I was looking at this part, and I'm remembering when Yoda was training Luke, and
Hmm.
Luke was the Padawan, and Yoda was the master on his back, and now Grogu is the Padawan on the
Hmm.
back of the master, running through, and you see the parallels in it, like you said. The harkening back. Disney is playing up all the tropes, every last ounce of lore that they can pull out, memories that they can pull out. They're giving you a total fan service. Like when we saw the robots, the droids building his first temple, and let's not forget R2D2 being an ass. That's exactly what he does. He turned
You're just like,
off.
I'm out.
He's like, "You gonna wait right here? We got nothing to do. You got nothing to say." And he shuts off and he sits right there. And going right back to Ahsoka, Ahsoka saying that, do you want to see him, or do you really want to see him? Like, because you see him in the distance, and in seeing him, that's going to form stronger ties that he doesn't want to
Yep.
leave, because he didn't want to leave the first time. So this is going to make it harder. And Din knows this, he sees this, and he makes his choice in giving Ahsoka the bag. And I didn't know what was in the bag the whole time through, getting to that space. And then when they get to that space where it's Grogu and Luke, it took me back to an old karate movie where it was the ball and the sword. Choose the ball, you choose the way of your mother. Choose the sword, you choose the way of the samurai. And I said, Luke, you son of a, you gonna actually play this game with this dude like this. This is, and it's like either you're going to choose defense or offense. Either you're going to choose the way of the Mandalorian, which is the pack way, or you're going to choose the way of the Jedi. And he gave them, it was two items, which was the chainmail for the Mandalorians, which what they're known for is the armor. And that's a hell of a great deal. Like, it's a hell of a great deal. A chainmail, come on, it's a hell of a great deal. Under his little robe, fantastic. But then you had the saber of Yoda's saber. And I'm like, you playing dirty, Luke. And he shows it, and Grogu's like, wow. Like,
Yeah, he ignites it too. He's like, oh, I'm really gonna sell this.
yeah. And he puts it there, and I'm like, that's a real sucker move, like a real complete sucker move. In doing so. And before we get to the big reveal, what was your thoughts when you saw that happening? And he made this absolute make him choices, for Grogu.
Yeah, I feel like so part of Luke's thinking is that he didn't want to, again, he didn't want to steal away the agency of choice with his potential first people. And this was after Ahsoka told him to trust his instincts. And I think, again, parallel back to when Luke was training under Yoda, um, Yoda guilted him heavy into the choice that Luke was making of leaving his training early to try and save his friends on Cloud City. It was all doom and gloom from Yoda, and I think that Luke sees one that Grogu still has a firm attachment with the Mandalorian, and that he would love to continue training Grogu, but ultimately he knows that Grogu needs to be at peace with himself first. And allowing him to firmly choose this way and instruct him, you're either in or out, is what he thinks is going to be the best choice moving forward. What I think Grogu is going to choose, if any indication of how hints and plots have been laid so far in both the Book of Boba Fett and the Mandalorian, I think Grogu is going to choose the Mandalorian way and go back to Din. Din already has a cockpit set up for Grogu. It would help continue the plot for the Mandalorian season 3. But I also, part of me would wish that we would have a moment where Grogu could be both. Because we already have the lore behind the dark saber and the first Mandalorian Jedi. And I feel like Grogu could potentially fill that spot as well. But if I had to say one or the other, I think Grogu's going to choose a chainmail.
It's too many breadcrumbs placing Grogu back with the Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
The empty cockpit. The chainmail. Like, what are you gonna do with the chainmail after that? Like, what are you gonna do with it? And I know Grogu's a little thief, so he will take the chainmail, and on the way out, he's gonna steal a saber.
Yeah, just yeet it out.
I think it'll happen. I don't see those two characters existing without being in the same circumference.
Yeah.
It looked weird that way, and you saw his parental nature when he saw him. He chose what he thought was best for the kid at that moment, and he
Yep.
continues to do so. So he's a great guardian when it comes to that. Uh, I don't think Ahsoka was a great guardian when it came to him because again, she chose not to take responsibility of him. Luke chose to take responsibility of him because of one reason, and that was because of Yoda. And the Mandalorian chooses to take responsibility of him because he's the foundling. He's his foundling. The whole series was about him defending this package that was a target, and when he found out why he was targeted, it made him even more upset. So and it humanized him. So honestly, I think those two get back together for the season 3 of Mandalorian. But the hell with this. What about that spice?
So the name of the chapter 6 is something akin to a stranger emerges from the desert. And again, the way the episode opened up was kind of a red herring because it opens up with Cobb Vanth defending Mos Pelgo from the Pikes, and it was like, oh, okay, this makes sense. Cobb Vanth's gonna link up with Boba. He'll be some muscle. But completely opposite direction when we revisit Cobb Vanth again at the end of the episode, after Din tries to convince him, just to see that slow walking silhouette in the distance.
Oh god.
And there's a saying that someone said one time that what makes a Star Wars character great is when you can recognize them from their silhouette alone. And
Mm-hmm.
so as he got closer and the silhouette became full, long duster coat and the
Mm-hmm.
infamous hat and just the stance, I was like, oh, they finally did it. It's
Dude,
time.
when I saw the silhouette, I knew exactly who he was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I'm screaming, and my wife was like, "What the hell?" And I'm like, they did it! Oh my
Yep.
god!" So I'm
Yep.
thinking about all the statues and stuff that I'm going to get, licensed statues from Sideshow and all this stuff. I'm like, okay, this is they're finally going for it. They're going for it.
Yep.
I'm
And
so upset. Oh, go ahead.
mm-hmm.
Sorry, just go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, and they start off the episode showing, even without the armor, how quick of a shot
Oh yeah.
Cobb Vanth is and how formidable he is on his own. And then to see outnumbered 2-1, Cad Bane waiting for his moment to outgun both Cobb Vanth and the deputy was just exactly what the audience needed to see for people who don't even know who that character is.
I say this. That is always going to be clouded in speculation. I don't think Van is dead. I think
Oh
he's
yeah, I
just
agree.
injured. Um, but I think that injury hampers him with any future battles that he has with Cad Bane, for the simple fact that I think he could have took Cad Bane. I think that we will never get that question, who's the fastest draw, because we was going to get that question answered right then
Mm-hmm.
and there. And until the deputy decided to be impatient and thinking that he
Mm-hmm.
was helping, he wasn't. He was a huge distraction. I was completely
Yep.
pissed off. The episode did exactly what it was supposed to do. It built angst in me, it built agitation, and it built frustration at the result of, I knew that these two heavyweights can battle it out, and I knew that because you saw he is probably the fastest draw we've seen in the Star Wars universe,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because up until that time, we thought Boba Fett was probably from conversation, or Han Solo from
Yep.
conversation, but actually in execution, when he shot down those pikes and told the other dude, "Now you're the smart one out of the group, and I think
Mm-hmm.
you need to readjust." Um, I was so frustrated that we was robbed from that, but it built up exactly what it was. Um, that Cad Bane, for you individuals that really don't know, he's the one that put the dent in Boba's head in the helmet. That dent right there. The reason why there's a dent there is because he shot Boba in the head, and he put that dent in the what's that armor? What's the name of the metal?
The best guy?
Yeah, the Beskar. Beskar can't really be injured and dented in that manner. So that's why that dent is there and it doesn't come out unless it gets forged out. So it's incredible to see that they finally link these two. And I want to see what Boba says when he sees Cad Bane, because now that we know that the Pikes is, I already assumed that the Pikes was going to hire Cad Bane. I thought it was going to be on a cliffhanger at the end of the episode of the last episode, but no, they decided to show him now. So that means that they're going to show him a little bit earlier on in the final episode.
Right.
I'm like, bro, what happens when Boba gets a chance to see him after knowing that they have history, and will they touch on the shot and the dent, the infamous dent? They're doing us a hell of a service. This has literally, Disney Plus has paid for itself in my enjoyment and my experiences that they're giving me. And this Book of Boba has lived up to everything that I hoped it to be up until now.
Yep, it's definitely been a roller coaster. I've liked the choices that they've made with changing the direction for Boba Fett. I like the interconnectedness they're doing with the greater whole of Star Wars. And like you said, I'm very excited for this finale, and I'm excited to see what happens with the fate of Cad Bane and the confrontation with Boba Fett. And just one more episode that we'll see next week. But this has been the Lord's Minute. Thank you so much for joining us on this longer than usual double-parter, and we'll be back next week for the season finale. I'm Ty Swenson, here with Lord King, and this has been the Lord's Minute.
Peace.